minute late. I don't like it. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the October 21st, 2022 meeting of the Beavercreek Rotary Club. I want to thank our stand-in greeters, Alex, and I don't know if we can give Stephen much credit. He stood there with the camera and BS, but whatever. Eric Marcus, thank you for being the ticket master. Our group that does the programs, we appreciate it. That's Keith Bales, Mark Weinstein, and Mike Swick. Jim, thanks for taking care of the website. If you'll bow your heads for a quick invocation. Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us together in fellowship today. We thank you for the speakers. We thank you for the food, for the nourishment of our bodies. Since we're talking about money through donation and taxation today, we ask that you bless those who handle it and allow them to be good stewards of the money of others. We ask these things in your name. Amen. All right, Joe, do we have a secretary's report?
Yep, we are at 45% and one guest, Beth.
Sorry, just took a bite. This is my husband Josh. I get to get inducted today, so my husband Josh got to run and join me.
Welcome, Josh.
Celebrate, Josh.
Okay, so we're skipping Sergeant at Arms today for the extent of the program. That was harsh. So I will go immediately to Happy Bucks. Do we have any Happy Bucks? Yes, sir. Jackie.
The Beavercreek marching band won at the OSU Invitational last Saturday. It was the first time they beat Grove City in over at least 30 years in ever. So it's a pretty big deal. There's all kinds of news articles and things on it, so it's pretty cool. And they're performing tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning at Indianapolis. So that'll be one of the last two competitions they have for the year. So good things going on.
All right, sounds good. Any other Happy Bucks? Stephen Brown.
About 4 years ago, I bought a 1970 T10 that I'm getting ready to restore. And today I finally picked up my engine from the shop and decided to do that project on. So I have a 383 service.
All right. Congratulations. Only 6 or 7 more years till that's done, right? Joe Jenkins.
Last night, the boys, Beavercreek varsity won their first game against Monroe, 1-0, and their next game is Monday at Indiana.
Any other Happy Bucks? Alex.
I put a few Happy Bucks in there. First of all, thank you everyone that reached out to me and asked about my daughter who's in Fort Myers. Unfortunately, we're going to be changing some wedding plans because the wedding venue was destroyed. She's fine, and thank you everyone for asking.
We don't believe in omens, right?
Yeah.
Any other Happy Bucks? Okay. How about ticket drawing? Don has handed me ticket number 117867. Remember that half the proceeds we receive go to the Christmas basket. 117867. Better check my ticket. Not me. Somebody.
He's not Eric. I wrote the Eric.
867.
That'll be more last.
867.
It's going to rebuild the transmission or something. All right, Pike Rose. Okay, anybody have announcements? So I have one. Jim Brett asked me to announce on the Flag for Heroes as we prepare for Veterans Day on November 11th. We're looking to install the flags at D Hope Church on November 5th, which is a Saturday at 3 p.m. We'll have an event at the location on November 11th at 5 p.m. And then we'll look to take them down on the 12th. So, did I miss anything, Jim?
Well, that's good.
All right.
Just real quickly, piggyback off that, Flags for Heroes is awesome. Obviously, you've seen the flag out there. We get a really good, the community takes it in really well. We're looking at getting a committee together for Flags for Heroes. If we want to see this succeed and continue in the future, we're going to work really hard this year to push it out marketing wise. So if you're interested in joining the committee for that, please let Jim or myself or Brandon know.
Okay, so thank you, Stephen. I'm going to ask Keith Bales to come up, and I'm sorry, let's first do our induction, right? Brian Lincoln.
I have one more thing. On the 4th of November, a past RI president will be at our club having lunch with us. So feel free to invite a guest. Make sure you come to the meeting so we have a big crowd. And if you're bringing a guest, let us know so we make sure we have enough food, because it would be embarrassing to have 60 people and food for 40.
Anybody else? Going twice? So, my fellow Rotarians, I'm pleased to introduce a new inductee to our Rotary Club today. Elizabeth Beth Handworker, please rise and be recognized. Beth was born and raised in Vandalia. She was literally born at home on a couch. Her physician father wasn't home at the time. I'm sure that's a family story that will continue forever. She attended Vandalia Butler, where she was a band nerd. Welcome to the group. She played French horn. She earned a degree from Wright State University in financial services and a Juris Doctorate from American University. She's also earned her Series 7 and Series 66 and is a CFP. You'll have to ask her what that stands for. I already know. She works with the James Gang at the James Investment Research, and she is an estate and financial planner. Beth is certified divorce financial analyst. She's also the treasurer of a PTO and the treasurer of a Boy Scout troop. See a theme going here? Money. Okay. She currently lives in New Carlisle with her husband Josh and children Bella, age 14, and Micah, age 8. She enjoys embroidery, reading, puzzles, and board games. See the band nerd thing kind of continuing there?
Still a nerd.
Yeah, that's a good thing. She heard of Rotary because her daughter participated in the 4-way speech contest. She said one of the coolest places she's ever been was the Library of Congress. See the nerd thing, keep going there. Her Rotary sponsor is Eric Marcus and will be pinned by Eric. So Beth, you may be seated. These words apply not only to our new inductee, but for all of us. Membership in Rotary is a privilege. Members are given the opportunity to become more involved in the community and provide aid to all parts of the world. Involvement is the key to getting the most out of your membership. Volunteer to serve on a committee. These activities will help you get to know your fellow club members, along with learning and developing leadership and organizational skills. Beavercreek Rotary is the service club of choice for those who make Beavercreek the wonderful community that it is today. Now, Rotary members are expected to attend our regular meetings and make up by visiting neighboring Rotary clubs if you can't be here on Friday. They expect a prompt response to your quarterly invoice, participation in the Paul Harris Fellow Program, and most importantly, involvement in our club activities. You see, leaders are doers, not watchers. There's so many opportunities to serve with our club. Our projects include Annual Dictionary Project, which is now, our Christmas basket delivery, Popcorn Festival, Golf Alley, Avenue of Flags, Hero Flags, and student exchange pancake. Well, we're doing a pancake breakfast anymore? Maybe not. I need to change my script, I think. Good, pancake breakfast. All right. And of course, service on our board. So we recognize and award our members for perfect attendance, participation in the Paul Harris Fellow Program, course, perfect attendance means you've attended all of our Friday meetings, or if you can't make this Friday or the next Friday, you attend another Rotary Club, or you attend a board meeting, or you participate in one of our projects. There's many ways to get a makeup for attendance. Paul Harris Fellows are recognized by donating $1,000 or more to the annual programs fund. Some Rotarians have achieved multiple Paul Harris Awards. Membership in Rotary is an honor and a privilege. Treat it with respect and dignity. Wear your Rotary pin everywhere with pride. Most importantly, practice the principles and values of Rotary in your daily business and personal life. The motto of Rotary is service above self. We expect that you'll be involved with our club. That's why we've invited you to join. Rotarians are leaders. They have the desire to improve the community and world around us. So at this time, Beth, handworker, will you please come forward? Josh, please join her. And Eric, to hand her the pin, which is my strong suggestion, Eric.
You don't want to see blood drawn, huh?
That's right.
I'll let Josh actually put it on.
There you go.
How's that?
Don't make me.
Are we ready for that? Okay, there's your Rotary pin. You got one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Not in her. On
Look this way. Wow, perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Beth Handworker. You got it? Here. All right.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the second part of our speaking engagements today, and we are going to hear from three people talking about the local levy initiatives that we've got. And so I'd first like to invite Greta Mayer to come up and talk. Greta is the CEO of the Mental Health and Recovery Board of Clark, Greene, and Madison counties, and they have a levy, and Greta will give you a few minutes to talk about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And I brought my button. I forgot my pin, but I am a Rotarian, but just not from this club. I'm with the Springfield Rotary Club, which is where our office is located, but we do cover Greene County, Clark County, and Madison County. So I am the immediate past president, so I feel really excited now that I feel like I can participate again as a regular member, even a little bit more than I was able to do in the leadership role. But I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Pete, and to the club for being able to share with you what we have going on. So I wanted to make sure I time myself so I don't talk too long. But I'm talking about, and there are handouts on your table, the mental health levy that is a countywide Greene County to benefit Greene County residents levy, and it's a straight renewal. We're not asking for any new taxes. We are locking in this 1.5 mil rate that we've been running on since 1995. And even prior to 95, we had a 2 mil levy in Greene County, but we wanted to come back to the voters, reduce the tax that we charged on property taxes to the voters, and fiscal stewardship continues to be a top priority for Mental Health Recovery Board. So the dollars with the 1.5 mil that you would be paying for a $100,000 property is less than $30 a year. So per month, that's less than $2.50. So for that, you may wonder, what do I get? You get us as a very lean administrative body. We're a division of local government. And again, Greene County merged with Clark County, and then Madison joined later, and that was all in the 90s to save administrative costs. So we have a small administrative body so we can push out those local dollars for services, because that's what people care about. When their child, their loved one, their partner, spouse, and coworker is having troubles, whether mental health or substance use addiction wise, that there are services available. There's a safety net, and that's what these dollars provide. What we've been able to do over the last 10 years is increase access points to care by the number of providers we fund. we've capitalized on unprecedented federal dollars in the wake of the opioid epidemic, as we're still, really diligently fighting that to curb the overdose rates and as well as the suicide rates. We're investing by using federal and state dollars first and local levy last. That's how we've been able to increase access points. So the providers with whom you may be familiar or maybe not are on your handouts. You can see we've gone from 9 to 13, and that's just over the last 5 years. So we're steadily increasing access points to care and providing more for the dollars that you invest with us. So we greatly appreciate your support. And so the ballot language is included in one of the slides. We have yard signs. Please contact us. We'd be happy to deliver those to you. We're just doing a final push before Election Day, and we've received some great questions and comments. And I look forward to continuing and keeping going the great work we're doing in partnership with the Beavercreek community. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any. But thank you so much for your time today. Is it okay to take a question?
Yeah, sure. I guess more comment than question.
Yes.
My wife works for TCM, and trust me when I say, she talks all the time about how that you and all of the support alleviates problems in the hospital, with emergency calls and everything else, and how important it really is to have a good, strong mental health industry. It's huge. What you guys do is amazing.
Thank you so much for that. And he's not a plant. He's a fellow Rotarian, even though service without self really goes far. I appreciate that. But let me just tell you, just for that comment, a quick follow-up. I did have a quote from it's a Greene County teacher who's also a mom, just saying that TCN specifically was able to change her frightened young son into this college-bound, confident young man. And that's the kind of stories we don't hear about and people often don't know are happening, but that kind of recovery happens all the time with our young people as well as our adults. So thank you, and for your wife and what she does. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greta. Greta is a rock star, and what she works on is so important. So thank you. All right, I'd like to invite Tiffany Schwartz up. She is going to be talking about the upcoming City of Beavercreek street levy. For those of you who have not met Tiffany, she is a fellow councilwoman with me, and it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Rotary, for having me. I am here, as Pete said, to talk to you about our streets levy that's upcoming. But before I go into detail, I wanted to provide you just a couple of important facts on the streets of Beavercreek that you may not be aware of. So the first fact is that the city of Beavercreek has 577 lane miles of street that they are now accounting for. 577 miles. So to put that into perspective, if you were in downtown Dayton and drove 577 miles west, that gets you to St. Louis, Missouri. You decided to go south, that gets you to Middle Georgia. So that's a significant number of lane miles that we are covering. The next fact is that since 2000, the population in Beavercreek has increased by, I want to make sure I get this right, 23%. In addition to that, the number of jobs since 2002 has increased by 42%. So imagine the amount of wear and tear on those roads that has been occurring over the past 20 years. Why the 20-year timeline? Why am I saying 20 years? Why does that matter? Well, since the past 20 years, the city has only increased its public service division by 1 employee. And so we now only have one additional person that's helping care for that 577 lane mileage with all of the significant wear and tear. So what is a street levy? Why is it important? What do we do with the money? That money is used for maintenance. It's used for resurfacing, snow and ice removal, traffic signals, anything that you really think of, curbs, anything related to the streets. And so Beavercreek City Council decided to place a 2.15 mil continuous street levy to maintain and also increase the current level of service that's being provided in the city of Beavercreek. That funding will add 5 additional public service workers. It will also go towards matching funding that we heavily rely upon for grants for our street services. And it will likely eliminate a projected budget deficit over the next few years. As you are aware, as each of us are aware, Inflation has impacted all of us, and the city is no different. We've seen an increase in concrete, asphalt, salt, and so in order to maintain our current level of service and to increase in order to account for the increase in population, as well as the wear and tear provided by the employees in provided by the people working in Beavercreek, this levy is necessary just to face that growing infrastructure. So I just ask that you consider the street levy very seriously when you are at the ballot in November. And if you have any questions, I will be available after, happy to answer. Thank you.
And finally, with our local levies, I'd like to invite Councilmember Don Adams to come up. He will be talking about the upcoming police levy initiative. Sergeant. I think it's okay to clap.
I really kind of wish I was doing a sergeant's report today because I'd use this dance floor or something. Somebody would pay. In addition to other positions in Beavercreek, I've been volunteering with the police department for a little over 17 years. And we in Beavercreek are really fortunate to have a well-trained, professional, and dedicated police department. But to continue with the services we've grown to expect from our police, we need to come to you and ask for a 2.5 mil levy. It's to help the department today and for the future. Why are we asking for a new levy? The Beavercreek Police Department is primarily funded by property tax levies. We have not had an increase in money since 2014. And as Tiffany said, all costs have gone up in addition to that. And our current authorized strength of the police department is 50 sworn officers. In 1995, the authorized strength was 46. Beavercreek has grown from 38,000 residents to over 47,000 residents since 1995. That results in a little over 1 officer per 1,000 people in the city. And from, if you look around at all the other areas, the other communities here, we are much lower than anybody else. The police department responded to a total of 40,541 calls last year. That's the highest it's ever been. I calculated that out, and it seems really hard to imagine, but that's about 4 calls per day, every day for every officer who's on the street. So when you think about it, we don't have enough officers. This levy would allow for us to increase our officer strength to 55. And there are a lot of reasons for that. The increasing calls for service and traffic activity are associated with the 2 large malls, I-6, 75 and 35. All of the people that we're talking about that come into Beavercreek each day. And just to give you an example, I'm also a COPP, and I got called out last night. There were 3 personal injury accidents, all within about 30 minutes, that took care of everybody. There was no officers on the street for a while. So that just kind of gives you an idea why we need more officers. And depending on the shift, there are typically 4 to 6 officers. That includes a sergeant on duty at any one time. FBI studies have shown that we should be at 68 sworn officers. This levy will allow us, as I said, to get to 55. It's a good start. It's not going to get us where we need to be, but it's a good start to get us close. Also in this levy, we would like to build, we will be able to build a police station that would be adequate to accommodate the needs of the department. All of the officers, including safety, and keep everything in one place. There are records, supplies, vehicles, and equipment stored in at least 3 different locations, and I know the fire department has some of it. So, because we just don't have enough room in the existing building. The locker rooms for the officers are totally inadequate for today's police officer. The women's locker room is very small, and we just added another female officer to our force, which brings us to 6. The lockers are actually high school type lockers. You can't even put a hanger in them. When you consider what these officers have to have with their bulletproof vests, their uniforms, duty belts, and other gear, there's no room to store that in there. They have to carry that with them or keep it out of the salad board in a bag. We're not into defunding the police here at Beavercreek. In fact, we want to provide funding so that our community can continue to be a safe and comfortable place to live, work, and play. If you want more information, you go to the city's website or the latest In Touch. And if you'd be willing to put a sign in your yard, I have some in my car. I can't bring them in here, but I'd be more than happy to give you one. Thank you very much.
Can you know the year of that FBI report came out saying we should be in the 60s? Do you have that statistic?
2016.
So in 2016, we should have been at 60 some officers, and we're currently at 50.
We're 50 authorized. And that's 6 years ago.
Yep.
See, and we have grown, so it's a need that is definitely there.
Thanks, on.
I can tell you this also, your city council takes these levy initiatives very seriously. You know, we don't ask for funding that we don't need and we don't believe that we need. And so I would ask you to consider it very strongly. I'll also ask you share the information with your neighbors and pass the information along, because, you know, we're 2.5 weeks away from Election Day, and all three of the issues we've heard from today will need some support. So we will move on to our speaker for today, our speakers, I should say. I'm proud to introduce Jason Wing and Tom Hamilton from University Baptist Church. I'm sure all of you have driven by the corner of Haynes Road and Kemp and been pretty amazed at what we've seen over the last 6-8 months of work. And so we've asked them here today to talk about that process and how amazing it is. And so a little bit about our speakers today. I'll start with Pastor Wing. Pastor Wing moved to Ohio in 1995. He's been married to his wife, Rachel, for almost 17 years. They have 4 children, ages 15, 13, 10, and 8. So that's a handful. He got his education as a BA in Communication Arts from Cedarville in 1999, and his master's in Theological Studies from Rawlings School of Divinity in 2018. In 2002, he entered the ministry as a youth pastor at Apex Community Church in Centerville, and in 2018 was called as the lead pastor, I should say, to University Baptist Church in Beavercreek. His main responsibilities now include preaching, managing the church staff, chairing the body of elders, and ensuring the prayerful care of church members. And this is the first time he has led anything through the building and fundraising project of certainly this magnitude. Mr. Tom Hamilton has been commissioned with the Air Force in 1979, retired as an Air Force colonel in 2007, flew a number of missions. The list is very long here, sir, but thank you for your service. He's lived in Beavercreek since 1998 and is an Air Force civilian from since 2007, and is retiring again in 2 months. So congratulations. He's married to Lisa for 42 years. They have 3 children who are all local, and Rachel, his eldest, married Jason. So there's a pretty amazing connection. He has 11 grandchildren. He joined University Baptist Church in 2018 and has been the chair of the building committee. So let's please welcome Jason and Tom.
It'll just take a second, we suppose, to get to the front end of of Jason's briefing here. He's going to introduce a concept or an organization rather called Builders for Christ. They're out of Birmingham, Alabama, and their mission is every year, either 1, 2, or 3 locations around the country. They pull together up to over 1,000 volunteers up to over 1,000 volunteers to come for various weeks through the particular summer to help a church that wants to save a few dollars by using the volunteer labor rather than exclusively contractors. That's not to say we don't use contractors, but we were able to save a lot of money by these volunteers that come in and sacrifice their own calendars and their vacation weeks to join us. Over to you, sir.
And Pete, thank you for the invite and setting all this up. How much time would you like us to stick to? Give me a goal.
25 minutes.
Okay, we'll shoot for 20. Let's see here. So again, thank you all for letting us be here. It's been an exciting 6 months, really, as we've seen the progress of the church building. And even before that, managing a church, leading a church through the COVID pandemic and everything else has made for an exciting few years since I came to University Baptist. So I just wanted to take a few moments and share with you all a presentation. Really, that's in 3 parts: where we've been as a church, where we are right now, and where we're going. And so let me just walk us through this. Quick history. The church was started in 1967 in the home of Estel Johnson and his wife, Olita. You can see their picture there. Estel passed away about 1.5 years ago, but he stayed in the same church for all 54 years since the church has existed. And so that's pretty rare if you've been in church life to know a member that has been there that whole time. So Estel was the founding member, and you can see some of the photos there of the original meetings. Early on, the church bought a property over on really Grange Hall Road, kind of near Colonel Glen. And that's the original building that they had there. You can see on the right-hand side, the kind of larger chapel area. That was a building expansion project that they did back in the 70s, I believe, or maybe the early 80s onto that property. In the 90s, 2 pastors got to meet each other, the pastor of University Baptist Church and the pastor of what used to be a Church of God that meets in the property where we are now. The 2 pastors met each other. They got to know that their congregations, University Baptist was growing, the Church of God was dwindling, and the congregations agreed to just swap properties. And so in the 90s, that's when the property swap occurred. And you can see on the left-hand side of the top picture that there's kind of a portion of our building with a lighter colored top there. And that's actually the first time that the church was expanded onto by a group of volunteer builders. So back in the 90s, there was a volunteer group that came in and did that expansion onto the property. In 2014, we bought the property across the street on Haynes Road, where we now call it UBC East. I believe it used to be Kemp Road Baptist Church. And we were able to purchase that, and that's been helpful. In January of 2018 was when I was called as the lead pastor. In March, we had my installation service as a new pastor. All through the summer, our church started growing, and by the winter, we had somewhere between 450 and 550 people coming. We started having not just one Sunday service, but multiple Sunday morning services. By Easter of 2019, we were so big at that point, we couldn't really meet in our building anymore. So we held an Easter service at Coy Middle School. It was wonderful for the school to open up their facilities to us. It met a huge need for us there. Of course, shortly thereafter, we had the Memorial Day tornado. And like many of you and throughout the community, our part of our property had the roof ripped off the top of the building through the community. So we were out in the neighborhood working with our neighbors to help rebuild and restore. And that was a privilege for us to be able to go out and do what Jesus actually said, love your neighbors. And so that was good for us to be able to do. We continued to grow as a church. We went up to 3 Sunday services. And in 2020, we had one Sunday where in our small little building there, we had attendance of over 1,000. We added a 4th Sunday evening service for a short time. We started getting serious about our building expansion discussions, and then COVID hit. And all the momentum seemed to kind of just, come to a screeching halt. So we had to adjust like every other church around the country. We initially did about 16 or 17 weeks of services online only. We had never done online services before that, so we started doing online services. We have the space and the blessing to have the outdoor property to be able to meet outdoors. And so in the summer of 2020, we started meeting out on the church lawn. Then we moved over to services in the church parking lot. and people started returning, but being able to space out. It got cold in the fall of 2020, and we knew we couldn't meet outdoors anymore. And so we said, well, where can we meet? Somebody from our church knew somebody who worked at Fairfield Commons Mall. The old Elder Bierman store had been sitting empty for, I think, 3 or 4 years at that point. And they let us start to meet in the mall with all, I don't remember how many square feet that is, 50,000 square feet on one level. So we had plenty of space to social distance and space out. People felt comfortable to start coming back to worship in a safe environment. And then in June of 2021, we were able to start moving back to our main campus and start having services back there again. And during this time was when we formed our building expansion committee, which my father-in-law Tom is the chair, and we had really started getting the ball rolling on the need to start expanding our facilities. In the fall of 2021, so just over a year ago, we launched what we call our Make Him Known initiative. You guys have the booklets on your tables right now that really share the specifics about what that campaign is all about. It covers a lot of our church history. It gives some of the funding details, the building expansion details. And so if that's of interest to you, those booklets are for you to take and just read over at your convenience. But as part of that Make Him Known initiative, we said that we wanted to try to raise a total of $4.5 million over the course of 2 years to fund our ministry, to fund missions efforts, but also to expand our facilities. And you can, again, read about the details of that in your booklet. But part of the Make Him Known initiative being to expand our facilities, we had a partnership with a different design build firm that just wasn't working out. And it's very difficult once you've made so much, as you guys know, once you're so far along in a building planning process, it's very difficult to have to say, this isn't working out, we need to go a different direction. Nevertheless, we felt that's what we needed to do to move forward. And so we ended up getting connected with the organization that my father-in-law mentioned, Builders for Christ. And since partnering with them, things have moved very quickly, as Pete and others have mentioned already today. And really, I just wanted to give you just a very, very short overview of how quickly things have moved since we had our initial contact with Builders for Christ. And so, Deb, you can take it from here.
Thank you. Okay, so June of last year was the first conversation with Builders for Christ. It could have been early May, but the people we heard from who referred us to Builders for Christ, I thought they were loony. And so I couldn't accept the concept of somebody pulling together over 1,000 volunteers to help us build a church, people who don't know us. So I drug my feet, but finally gave them a call. That first call was extremely positive. In less than 2 months later, we had an agreement in place to start building, to start working together. And after less than a month after that, we received their first concept design, which we then started refining right away. Then we saw the writing on the wall that things looked really good going forward. We became quite positively influenced rather than negatively influenced, especially since the founder of Builders for Christ is out of Birmingham, but he's also ended up being our architect of record. And so this gentleman's name is Lawrence. And so Lawrence was able to help us kill 2 birds with 1 stone, introduce us to the concept of all these volunteers coming throughout the summer, and then actually having skills that were to meet the requirements we had, but also then to help us iterate along various designs as we work through our requirements. Then just a month later or so, Jason said we were seeking 4.6 million in commitments, and we got $500,000 on top of that. That's a good thing because, as a few people have already mentioned, we all know about the inflation since then. So, slide.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, sorry. So in January, thanks, Jason. So in January, we had a conference where we pulled together all the staff, if you will, the volunteer staff of Builders for Christ from throughout the area, the eastern half of the country. And we also hosted about, I think, 70 or so churches, which was not as many as, not all of them could be represented, but we hosted about 70 or so churches in a 2 or 3 day conference at our church here in Beavercreek. Got to know one another. Folks and Builders for Christ sorted out the skill sets that would be required on weeks certain throughout the summer.
And then shortly after that, we had a groundbreaking ceremony, which some of you in this room were at. So on the day that our taxes were due, we forgot about that and we went ahead and focused on the church finances instead. And we were able to get them approved. We had an extremely favorable loan that was granted to us with a ceiling higher than we even asked for, which was a good thing because, as somebody mentioned earlier, inflation has come since then. So then a month later or so, the first volunteer builders began to arrive. And here we are just 5 months later. I would say we have 90% of the building done in only 5 months. That said, whether it's supply chain or weather or skill sets that are hard to come by, I'm not so sure that that pace will continue. We had hoped to perhaps occupy here this calendar year, and that may or may not happen. We're not concerned about that. We're very thankful for the rate we've been able to maintain thus far. How did it come together so quickly? Here's a quick overview. We had a couple work weeks in the beginning of May where the older heads of Builders for Christ, the charity, if you will, the organization, came together and augmented, if you will, the various construction drawings we had by then, and filled them out some more, and then kind of sort of got to know the drawings, just got in bed with those. And then the following week, the grading and the excavation started, along with the concrete footers. Those were going on in parallel to then what was initiated in week AA, which was the saw team and or the chop team. And that's where we had 4 truckloads of lumber delivered from northern Florida and southern Georgia, of grade A lumber, grade 1 lumber, whatever that designation would be. There's hardly a knot in the whole thing. And so we had those folks then, all the information was laid out for them on what boards to cut to what length to accommodate the building of these walls and to accommodate, of course, the adjustments on the slab. And these walls were 20-foot tall wood walls, very little steel in the building. There is some structural steel, but not a whole lot of steel in the building compared in light of how large it ended up being, which is about 18,500 square feet. That includes the second floor, which is not used for anything public. So 16,500 foot slab essentially. Those walls then, of course, we had to rent a no kidding crane of all cranes for a couple of weeks to get those up, as no matter how many people you got working on it, you're not gonna lift the wall like that. So week A was the slab and the beams, and week B was as shown, and then week C, the building came together so quickly in that particular weeks of May and June that we were able to get the trusses on, we were able to get the roofing on then, and then the interior walls built. We were fighting the weather a lot up until then, and then all of a sudden we were able to get a lot of the work done, and we could actually take a little bit of risk and do some interior work that the weather would not have been kind to had it actually rained. And then come late June rather, the roofing and the insulation started to go in. The roofing contract was turned in 12 hours, which was really, really interesting. So the church has been able to pay the contractors immediately, not net 10 or net 30, but often net 2 or 3. And that we learned that came to help us as the summer went on, as it became easier and easier to interrupt the schedules some contractors already had. Late June then, we had the HVAC was initiated. It's still not done. That's our longest pole right now. But we knew that going in, and then the insulation started going in. And then week F, up to the 4th of July, drywall started, and that continued for, you'll see here, for about a month or so, as that drywall had to be put up incrementally based on the internal rooms being framed out. And of course, you've got the fire resistant portions where we are bumping up against our existing building. Early July, the more roofing work and then the framing for the various windows. A lot of them are, some of them are normal windows, if you will, for a commercial building, but a lot of them are storefront as well. And then middle of July and the middle of the heat, the siding and the brickwork went on. Hired a mason to do the brickwork, who did just a wonderful job. But so what we were doing is some of these skill sets that are required even though we had over 1,100 volunteers coming in, and every week we'd have anywhere from 20 to 80 volunteers come in on their own nickel. They'd live in a hotel. On their own nickel, they'd pay for their own meals. And on their own nickel, they came here and left here to come and go. So that's the nature of what Builders for Christ is all about. The siding and the drywall went up, continued to go up, and it continued to go up. And the building was becoming more and more mature on the inside. And then we followed up with the masonry outside. And then we had to do other areas of insulation, which were up high. At one point, we had 13 scissors lifts and 4 man lifts going on at once. And that's a lot of opportunity to bump into another scissors lift. And we had a few of those. But these volunteers, we didn't know them from Adam, and they just came in. They got briefed on a Monday morning for 2 or 3 hours on what was they were supposed to do, and they executed beautifully. And a lot of these folks had been doing this under Builders for Christ leadership for several years. The summer goes on, we get cabinets delivered and installed as well. And the flooring was begun. We had to do that in piece parts, if you will, between the LVT and the carpeting itself. And then all the taping and all the drywall work, the post hanging work began. And that's when I conveniently left the area because I hate drywall. But that was a lot of work. And then the doors and the frames were going in concurrently with that. Sprinkler system went up, and boy, the deconfliction of sprinkler systems, drywall, and what you're seeing there, the acoustic clouds, was non-trivial. But we were able to work through all that. We have both wet and dry, if you will, fire water. Acoustic clouds went up. Those were mathematical wonders as well. And then we still had to work around them to do even more drywall muddy and taping. We're only talking about a month ago. The parking lot started going in earnest. It's painted right away. We had more acoustic clouds out in the lobby, not just in the sanctuary, that had to be installed. And we're still working with those. We also built a 30 by 45 associated garage across the street on the other side of Haynes at UBC East. And then earlier this month, the rigging for the PA system went up, and we are working through right now as we speak, the follow-on from that, the audio visual lighting and acoustical efforts. Sidewalks have all gone in by now. The carpeting has now complemented the LVT, the luxury vinyl tile that's gone in. And we've introduced 2 new parking lots, one to the north and one to the south. And then just recently and still now, working on doors and windows. Not all the doors have been delivered yet. That's an unfortunate difficulty right now. The flooring, the finished flooring has been cleaned up, and now the storefront windows are being installed, and they'll be all done next week. So that's kind of sort of where we've been, and it's been an interesting evolution. I'm glad I'm retiring.
Well, yeah, so as Tom mentioned, all of this, we view it as a gift of God's grace to our church and to the people of our community. We've had 1,100 volunteers come over the course of the summer from 89 different churches around the country in 25 different states, all of them covering all of their own expenses. And that's been an incredible blessing. So that's where we've been. Here's where we are now. We are at the midpoint of our Make Him Known initiative. We launched it on October 1st of 2021. We will conclude it on the end of December 31st, 2023. We're averaging over 900 people in attendance each Sunday. That's a picture of us having our Easter service this past year at Bales Arena. We needed a bigger space to meet, and they graciously opened their space to us. We're averaging 912 people presently. We're running 6 Sunday morning services between our 2 locations at the main campus and UBC East across the street. So we run 2 services concurrently at 3 service hours. We're making great progress on our building expansion. The addition onto our main campus is about 85% complete. The garage is almost done, probably closer to 95% complete now. And the new parking areas are 95% complete. I saw that the light posts for the parking lot went in either yesterday or today. And we also are, of course, renovating our interior of our existing building. And so all of that is underway. In addition to this building stuff, we're also adding more emphasis of being out into the community. We've adopted Shaw Elementary School to meet the needs of students and teachers there. We are supporting Feed the Creek to help provide meals for students and families in need. Our groups are volunteering out at Bridges of Hope, which is, I believe, the only homeless shelter in the Greene County area. And so that's where we are. Lots going on. Where we're going, Lord willing, we will end up with 6 new ministries to be started and 10 new missionary partnerships by the end of 2023. We need to bring on 3 more staff members to facilitate the ministry we believe the Lord is calling us to do. And our new facilities will be completed by then. That will include our new sanctuary, 625-seat sanctuary, as well as all the adjacent rooms and attachments right beside it. We are also going to be adding a nice new front lobby onto UBC East across the street. So that will match and kind of tie in the 2 locations together and make it look nicer. Of course, like I mentioned, we have a renovation project going on inside of our existing space right now. So that will need to be renovated also as well. And so to summarize, where have we been? We have been seeing God's faithfulness to our church since 1967. Where are we right now? We are at the midpoint of our 2-year Make Him Known initiative. Where are we going? We want to see our church ministries expanded and our missions efforts expanded. We want to add 3 new staff members, complete our facilities expansion projects at our main and east campuses. And Lord willing, we will raise at least $5.1 million toward this project by December 31st of 2023. That, sir, is 21 minutes. All right. So I don't know if we do have time for questions or anything like that. Yeah. So if anybody has any thoughts, comments, questions, I'm happy to field those or hand them to my father-in-law so he can take the ones that are intense.
I do have a question.
Sure.
First of all, congratulations. I don't know that I've ever seen anything go up so fast of that magnitude, and certainly Builders for Christ was an amazing asset. Can you share with the group, if you know it or if you're willing, like what was your budget for the renovation, and how much do you think Builders for Christ helped save money in that?
Yeah. So we talk about this fairly often. It's probably somewhere close to $1.5 million that has been saved through working with Builders for Christ. Do you agree with that? Somewhere around there? When it's all said and done, between our expansion at our main campus, the parking lots and all the things associated with that, our expansion onto our east campus, and our renovations inside of our existing facilities, we're probably talking about somewhere around a $7.2 million project. Does that sound about right? 7.2 million altogether. Good question. Yes.
Where are you seeing your growth come from? Is it students? I mean, you're in University Baptist Church. Is that your focus, or where do you see the growth coming from?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So University Baptist Church, like I said, was started in 1967, right over near Wright State University. And so the focus was to be able to reach people at Wright State's campus. And now that we've swapped locations, we're not quite as close to Wright State. But we do have probably about 150 to 175 college students who come to our church every week while school is in session. In the summer, that number dips down. They come from University of Dayton. They come from Wright State. They come from Cedarville. So we draw from all 3. And that's one area where we see growth coming. And honestly, if you came to our church on any given Sunday, you'd probably be surprised by the number of young people you see. But I think what you'd probably also be surprised is that we truly are an intergenerational church where there are grandparents sitting right alongside college students. And it's part of what makes it family. Yeah, it's wonderful. Great question.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Slideshow back.
Thanks again. As has become our custom, we are donating a book in honor of our speakers, which they've signed to the Beavercreek Community Library. This book is Blur, How Did We Get Here So Fast? Which is, this deals with kids, but the expansion was apparently your child. So, okay. So next week's greeters, Charles Curran and Bob Kachoy. Next week's speaker is Mark Caleb Smith, Director of the Center for Political Studies at Cedarville. I'm sure he doesn't have much to talk about, so try to be a quick one. So keep an eye on the website and Facebook for upcoming things. Remember the Flags for Heroes. Do we have anything else for the good of the club?
Dave, if you wouldn't mind, if you just entertain me for a couple of minutes, I'd like to tell you real quick, the nuts and bolts of issues 1 and 2 are going to be on the state, it's a statewide ballot initiative that will provide constitutional amendments to Ohio's constitution. Issue 1 came about from a recent Supreme Court case that changed the current law of how bail is calculated or set in criminal courts. The way it's been done in the past was they would consider public safety, they would consider affordability, and they would also consider the bad person's propensity for coming back to court. To, are you going to show back up, right? So the judges took all that information and would set bail. The Supreme Court changed it to only one criteria that can be used, and that is the affordability. So issue 1 will put the Constitution amendment in that the judges get to consider all of those things that we'd already been doing in the past. So that's issue 1. Okay, a yes vote will make that a constitutional amendment. Issue 2, even simpler. This was a Supreme Court case a long time ago, but it actually came out of Yellow Springs, because Yellow Springs, the village of Yellow Springs, voted and made a law that non-citizens could vote in a local election. Okay, the Board of Elections and the state Secretary of State said, no, you can't. So issue 2 will make it a constitutional amendment that will forbid any non-citizen from voting in any election, not just federal, not just state, but also local. So that's issue 2, real quick and simple. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for the information. All right. Okay, let's stand for the pledge, if we would. And if our speakers would be so good as to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.